Today's story springs from my primordial muse, my mother. Her presence flows through the narrative like a bridge between lived experience and imagination. Though I chose to preserve anonymity in this podcast, though my youth stories are fictions woven with threads of multiple realities, the truth seeps through. In my hometown, Pueblo Quieto, where each story is a shared legacy, people close to me often believe they recognize characters in my tales. My mother, that temple of patience and steel, has been the silent recipient of my revelations. As we say in Mexico, I haven't stopped airing her out with my stories. Today, beloved mother, I will do it again. The story I'll tell is inspired by a real anecdote, one I heard recounted over and over. A moment that needs no adjectives. My father arrived late to his own wedding because he had flown a kite before the ceremony. In his family, they told the story as a light-hearted joke, a memorable prank. I would watch my mother, her steel temperance, swallowing that story again and again with the dignity of a queen. As a child, it seemed funny. As an adult, I understood the depth of that delay. It was the precise omen of the husband my father would become. A delay so predictable, so unnecessary, that it became a sentence rather than an accident. Forgive me, Mama, this time even your name will emerge into the light. Here is Papillot, the comet.
Elena was born a princess. From her first cry, the world bowed to her. Beauty was her crown, grace her scepter. Privileged by a whimsical decree of fate, she moved through spaces as one moves across a stage. Privilege wrapped around her like a cloak. She had the sunniest room in the house, the window facing the street, the first invitation to the dance, the highest grades. Life handed itself to her without struggle, like a servant submitting to her will. Her black curls, her porcelain skin where cheeks and lips burned with intense red, made her almost mythological, a creature inhabiting the borderlands between the divine and the mortal. She would have been a saint in another time, a maiden in another town. She was a lost Guinevere in the harbor, among smells of salt and damp. A white orchid misplaced among a bouquet of common red carnations. Her life revolved around a King Arthur, her father. A king whose majesty required no subjects. What princess would seek a prince when the monarch had already laid his cloak for her? In a girl's childhood, every paternal gesture is a step toward glory. But adolescence arrives like a hurricane, uprooting everything. The Christ above the bed crumbles, Zeus shows his flaws. The fall is brutal, definitive. The scar it leaves never closes. It remains as a groove in memory, a wound that bleeds long after one reaches the altar, or never reaches it at all. For Elena, the collapse was total. One ordinary day, her father left as always, pristine, slicked back, impeccable. But something had changed. The air tasted different, more bitter. And she, from the window, watched him. With those enormous eyes capable of holding entire universes, she sensed something different in that ordinary figure. Those childhood omens that eventually foretell truths became the rust that, in adulthood, corrodes our souls. Her mother, shaped by a lineage of Mexican women tempered in suffering, embraced her martyrdom with an almost religious passivity. She awaited drama as one awaits communion, prepared to endure, to survive. That tragic day, she cooked for her husband as always, starched his shirts, set the table for dinner. He didn't come that night, nor the next, nor in a month, nor in hundreds of nights. And she had to, besides preparing the welcome for the absent husband, serve meals to strangers and starch other people's shirts to survive. Work after work, tear after tear, she kept waiting each night, perfumed with the scent he loved so much. Life is nothing but a succession of rituals. Rituals of love, of pain, of loss. Rituals that define us, consume us, save us, or destroy us. A woman's suffering draws invisible empires. A sigh crumbles more than screams, a tear wounds more than a dagger. Elena's mother marked her daughters with Eve's sin, being a woman, a territory always at war, always on the verge of invasion. Elena knew it. More than anyone, her father's departure bruised her soul. It dried her heart, crystallizing it forever. That abandonment left her dying in a Camelot in ruins. Without empire or glory, she suddenly had to choose between becoming a woman or a statue. She chose stone. In that house of high ceilings and dense silences, her father's abandonment left marks deeper than any visible wound. The daughters grew like uprooted plants, with the shadow of the absent father cast over their lives like a shroud of ash. But the father returned, almost theatrically, in his brutal simplicity. He sat at the table as if he had never left, as if the years of absence were but a parenthesis in family history. Without questioning him, his wife served coffee with a smile. Elena watched, always on the sidelines, witness to that dramatic play where each character performed their role with almost painful perfection. Her mother maintained the composure of cracked porcelain, in silence. A silence that was an ocean of contained emotions, which became an imperative promise for Elena: never become her mother. She would never, ever serve dinners or start shirts. She had been born a princess. She believed it so intensely that the world believed it too. She was crowned queen of spring, of flowers, of every school celebration. She adopted an aura of royalty. The reconstructed family moved to quiet Pueblo, a Camelot where time stopped like a faded photograph, where cobblestone streets held the secrets of generations. Colonial houses, with cedar doors and orange tiles, were silent witnesses to lives repeating like a senseless ritual. Elena emerged in that landscape like a flash, a luminous anomaly amid the town's dimness. Local women, gray and uniform like the scenery, watched her with a mix of admiration and resentment. She carried the brightness of the sea, the intensity of other horizons, a luminosity that disturbed the established quiet. Every step was a declaration, every glance a challenge to the mediocrity around her. And so, in that town where days passed without glory or shame, Elena became her own legend. Meanwhile, beyond quiet Pueblo, on the margins of the world, an entire generation was rebelling. Ramon, born in the town, inherited the weight of a family that had planted the roots shaping the place. Generation after generation, his lineage forged the history of that land. But he was born with wings. As a child, his longing to fly had made him a kite fanatic. He could spend hours mesmerized by his colorful kite dancing in the wind. When adolescence came, he ventured far, to confront the world. That new world was slowly simmering. He crossed the border, not just leaving his city or state. He went far north. To speak a new language, to let his bronze skin shine among pale men, in times when the masses preached love and peace, consecrating their auras to the age of Aquarius. He became addicted to peanut butter chocolates and apple pies. To seasons with mutating colors, foreign to quiet Pueblo's endless green. His return was almost an irony of fate, a reminder that our origins always catch up with us, no matter how far we try to flee. Ramon returned, stripped of youthful illusions, dragging behind him a trail of memories smelling of freedom, rock and roll, and unkept promises. Quiet Pueblo awaited him like a jealous lover, ready to claim what had always belonged to it. And it welcomed him with its immutable ritual of cobblestone streets, whispering secrets, and the scent of wet earth. Every corner held a fragment of his story, every familiar face a silent judge examining him with the scrutiny of one dissecting a strange animal. His hair fell below his shoulders, pierced lobe, bell-bottom pants too tight for the town's eye. His new look sparked more gossip than the majestic aura of the newly arrived Elena. Upon returning, his days unraveled between steaming black beans, tortillas puffing on the tortilla griddle like tiny continents, and his obsession with watching the sky through his kite. The kite was more than a toy, it was his lifeline, his only connection to a world threatening to crush him with routine. In another life, he had been a bird, which was why he only looked to the clouds. In his new life as a man, he couldn't bear to look down without dizziness and needles stabbing his skull. In Pueblo Quieto's afternoons, where the sky was painted with the colors of nostalgia, Ramon held his kite string like one holds a fragment of freedom. Each ascent was a challenge, each flight an attempt to escape the gravity of the predictable. He was faithful to that kite as he would never be to anyone, loving it as he had never loved a woman. Until Elena. From above, he watched her, as she looked at him from the window. His neighbor, a princess with ebony eyes and ivory hands, drifting through the town like a local deity, glimpsed him sideways. Like a prophecy that admits no reply, like a fate fulfilled even when ignored. There are no secrets in small towns, Ramon thought. Only truths waiting for the precise moment to be told. He made it his personal challenge to uncover Elena's secret, that living manifesto against mediocrity. Ramon watched from afar, like a hunter observes inevitable prey. More than a woman, she was a territory to conquer, an empire of shadows and light condensed in a young figure who seemed to have stolen the secrets of night and day. She did not walk, she floated. Ramon knew the instant their gazes met, he was no longer the same, she had already transformed him without touching him. Elena was a Guinevere seeking a King Arthur strategically. She wanted a partner for her existential chessboard. Elena did not seek a lover. She sought a conspirator to challenge the limits of possibility, to prove that Camelot would not crumble for her as it had for her mother. In the margins where desire meets indifference, Ramon and Elena wove their story. He, a wandering knight with burning gaze, she, a princess sculpted from ice. For Ramon, Elena was a battle for his frustrated conqueror's soul. He had not conquered the world and returned to this tiny town, but at least he would be the only one with the courage to decipher the enigmas of that icy territory that was Elena. Her indifference was a meticulously constructed armor. Their encounters were silent battles, he attacking with the passion of his eyes, she defending with the wall of her indifference. Until a May rain, falling on the cobblestones like a complicit witness, revealed one day, for some strange reason, an unknown fire that united them like a whimsical joke. No one understood the secret language they shared. When storms battered quiet Pueblo and others sought shelter, they made the outdoors their territory. Elena's long socks, her white uniform shirt transparent under the rain, were the flag of a negotiated surrender, of a love that asked no permission, that simply existed. Ramon's passion sought to tame her, Elena was a prize. And with every stolen kiss in the rain, every caress defying the cold of her defenses, he gained ground. Ramon and Elena inhabited their own universe, where conventional rules of love held no sway. She, who looked at no one, looked at him. He, who had sought everything, had found her. And so, between rain and mystery, they continued writing their story, while Elena seemed to keep walking on clouds. Ramon's pride weighed heavier than the bliss of kisses in the rain. His family constantly discredited this unhealthy conquest. Because you beg that conceited girl, she doesn't love you, can't you see? If she took you seriously, she'd already be your wife. Without much romance, they ended up engaged. On the wedding day, the morning light tore through gray clouds, as if the sky itself doubted the solemnity of the moment. Elena regarded her reflection, not as a bride, but as a soldier before an inevitable battle. Marriage was not a celebration, it was a silent surrender to the relentless codes of a town that devours illusions with the same voracity that stray dogs tear apart bones. Her black eyes, deep as obsidian wells, reflected not traditional joy, but profound melancholy. The white dress, heavy as armor, enveloped her like a shroud of social expectations. Every fold whispered resistance against the merciless machinery of convention. Ramon, meanwhile, floated in a limbo of uncertainty. His tuxedo was a disguise, not a vestment. Overcome by nostalgia for the thought that Elena would never again wear her long socks uniform, nor walk clandestinely in the park, he hesitated. The vast sky would return his courage. He removed his jacket, unbuttoned his shirt, threw his tie to the floor. There were still a couple of hours before the ceremony. On the rooftop, he made his kite dance in the sky, freer than him, bolder than any marital promise. All of Quiet Pueblo had gathered at the parish to see the beautiful Elena in her wedding dress. The church stood like a tribunal, wedding guests, the envious, the curious, the oblivious, all waiting for the decorated car to park and the bride to emerge. Elena was the accused. Not of a crime, but of the most terrible transgression, defying the immaculate liturgy of expectations. Elena circled the car to kill time before the ceremony, until the church bells rang like a verdict. From the corner, her sisters gestured nervously, "Go around again, the groom hasn't arrived." Her father squeezed her hand with a gesture that did not console but certify, while the car circled the block again. Each bell was a hammer. When silence thickened, Ramon's absence weighed like lead. Another lap around the block. Meanwhile, unaware of the drama unfolding, Ramon held his kite as a last vestige of freedom, ignorant that each movement of the string was another thread in the tapestry of his fate. Elena's gaze shifted. She was no longer the newly crowned school queen of family portraits, but a living archive of contained rage. Every step she took descending from the car was a manifesto of wounded dignity. She would not digest it. The most beautiful, the unattainable, descended today from celestial heights to the petty world of mortals to be judged. She imagined the sardonic laughter of that hypocritical town where she had never fit, rubbing in every passing second the cruel mantra, "You didn't succeed." For the first time, the marble expression of her angelic face broke, revealing a passion until then unknown, a primal, volcanic anger boiling in her womb like an ancestral fire. Elena would wait no longer. She would not reduce herself to a decorative figure, nor become a passive shadow like her mother had for generations, consumed in the silence of submission. "You didn't arrive on time," she murmured. "Don't arrive at all." She climbed to the rooftop of her house, facing Ramon's. From there, she saw him, absorbed in his kite, a symbol of freedom that no longer belonged to him. Elena watched him as a general observes the enemy, with precision, with disdain, with a clairvoyance that transcended the merely visual. The lightning that unleashed the storm made him realize the magnitude of his misstep, with Elena looking at him head-on, cheeks and lips reddened by rage. Beautiful. He wished he could fly with the kite to take her in his arms. Distracted, he slowly let the kite descend. The rain began as a deluge of intentions, washing away the remnants of the failed ceremony. Elena no longer looked at him, only at the damn kite, dancing in the sky, oblivious. When it reached arm's height, Elena leapt, grabbing it with a decision bordering on madness. She was his Lancelot, "Rescue me from this nightmare." Ramon, in an almost animal reflex, tugged the string to prevent the imminent fall of his two great loves. He managed to lift them, the kite's colorful tail dancing alongside the white layers of the wedding dress. With such majestic vision in the air, he focused even more on maintaining tension. Rise, rise. And suddenly, the entire town, which had witnessed the scene from below, exhaled in unison. "You're falling, Ramon," shouted his mother, too late. Then the inexplicable happened. They rose. They did not fall, did not crash onto Quiet Pueblo's rocky ground. They soared, defying the gravity of convention, mocking the stunned witnesses who watched the miracle. Later versions would speak of blood, shattered skulls, a fateful photograph. But the truth was subtler: they had escaped. When dawn came, only the kite lay on the ground, a silent witness to a flight no one would ever understand. And Quiet Pueblo remained a town, and remained quiet, but it would never be the same. Because sometimes, freedom is not conquered. It is simply taken, like the string of a kite in the air.
Copyright E 2025, al toque de la una. Todos los derechos reservados. El contenido de este podcast, incluyendo audio, guiones y cualquier material adicional, está protegido por leyes de propiedad intelectual. No se permite la reproducción, distribución o modificación de este contenido sin el permiso expreso de Al Toque de la Una. Gracias por respetar nuestro trabajo y por escucharnos. Nos vemos en el próximo episodio.